Now, this ruling will stay in effect for 14 days until October 18th. The Attorney General says he expects this ruling will be appealed to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, but says they are prepared for it. Attorney General Rayfield says effectively the order would place the National Guard back under the command of the governor at this time. President Trump previously said on social media that the troops were now in place and were said to be training at the coast. Rayfield says they will be back in front of the judge asking for an extension of this order in a few weeks to ultimately get a preliminary injunction that will last a longer period of time. Here's Attorney General Rayfield and Mayor Wilson.
The most compelling facts that the Trump administration had was back in June. And you don't get to look back several months and then all of a sudden start to deploy your troops, multiple months later, saying that justified the existence.
As the judge noted in her decision, we provided substantial evidence that the protests at the Portland ICE facility were not significantly violent or disruptive in the days or even the weeks leading up to the president's directive on September 27.
So after the ruling, a White House spokesperson said that President Trump exercised his lawful authority to protect federal assets and personnel in Portland following violent riots and attacks on law enforcement. We expect to be vindicated by a higher court. Now, Rayfield says that they're asking people to respect the ruling and protest peacefully. And right now, there's over a few hundred people here at the moment. If we go ahead and we kind of look toward the gates, there were just a lot of people chanting toward the direction of those gates. And people are out here playing music. It's been pretty peaceful while I've been out here, again, mainly just chanting and people speaking on the megaphone. There's people on the curb sitting down. There's a lot of people with gas masks, and at the moment you can still kind of smell the pepper balls in the air at the moment. But while I've been here, there's been no deployment of gas or anything like that. Again, over 100 people in the area, but cars are still making their way up and down the street. And so that's sort of what we've been looking at for the past couple of 10, 20, 30 minutes out here. But we'll be keeping you guys updated. We're going to try and talk to people on the street about their reaction to the ruling. But for right now, John, I'm going to toss it back to you.
All right, Celine Stevens live tonight. Celine, stay safe out there. Thank you so much for your reporting. Also happening today, President Trump authorized the deployment of 300 National Guard troops to Chicago. The Guard members' primary mission will be to protect federal officers and property. The president's actions come after protesters gathered at an ICE facility there on Friday. That demonstration led to more than a dozen arrests. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said the Defense Department gave him an ultimatum. Either he authorized the deployment of the federal government will do so. Pritzker called the Trump administration's actions outrageous and un-American. Hundreds of protesters marched to the Portland ICE facility today in opposition to ICE's presence here in the city. Jay Coulter brings us the story from the ICE facility this afternoon.
Protesters then marched from Elizabeth Carruthers Park to down here in front of the ICE facility, and after just a few minutes, ICE agents came out and unleashed tear gas and pepper balls.
Thank you all so much for coming out here today. I think a lot of people are very scared. A lot of people are very nervous. Sending the military after your own citizens is an egregious act.
Holly Brown helped organize Saturday's anti-ICE protest, which kicked off at Elizabeth Carruthers Park, and says she has been protesting down at the ICE facility many times over the last few months.
The people protesting at ICE are completely peaceful. There are people who are going out there to stand up for their immigrant neighbors, and they are being painted in some press outlets and by Donald Trump as agitators, as people who don't belong here, who are causing violence, and nothing could be further from the truth.
FBI data released Thursday claims they've made 128 arrests since June 9th, but KGW has found that many taken into custody aren't formally charged. Those who have been charged are facing penalties for trespassing all the way up to assault on a federal officer. What do you make of the current characterization of Portland as a sort of war-ravaged place?
If this is war-ravaged, boy, there's a lot of people in the world that want to be here.
We say fight back!
Protesters then marched down to the ICE facility from the park, but were quickly met with force from federal agents. Holly Brown, who we'd interviewed earlier, stepped over the blue line on the ground marking federal property and was seemingly detained by federal agents, as you can see here, along with what looked like at least 2 other people. Moments later, agents deployed tear gas and mace. We also photographed someone who says he was hit by a pepper ball. Much of the crowd dispersed in the immediate aftermath, and KGW did not witness any violence coming from the side of the protesters.
Am I surprised that these fragile men with their big guns and stuff are sitting out here getting joy from shooting civilians? No.
Jay Coulter, KGW News.
One person arrested during a protest outside of the ICE facility over the summer is now waiting to be sentenced. The Oregon District Attorney announced yesterday that 47-year-old Julie Winters entered a guilty plea for felony intimidation of a federal officer and resisting arrest. Court documents state in June she pulled a knife and swung it at officers, then fought with deputy marshals when they tried to arrest her. Video shared with us showed officers tasing her. She's set to be sentenced in December. And stay with KGW for continuing coverage of the protests, plus any appeal on the ruling to send National Guard troops to Portland. Look for that here on air on KGW.com and on KGW+.
Hands up! If you reach for a weapon, you could be shot!
The Portland Police Bureau has released body-worn camera video from a police shooting that happened last month. The incident took place at a gas station in southeast Portland. And we do want to warn you, this video will be disturbing to some viewers. You will hear the sound of gunshots, but will not see the shots being fired or anyone getting hit. On the morning of September 20th, Portland police officers responded after a report of a man threatening an employee at a gas station in southeast Portland. They encountered the suspect at another gas station near Southeast 122nd and Division. Body-worn camera video shows officers arriving on scene and communicating with the suspect, asking him to exit the vehicle with his hands up.
Hands up! If you reach for a weapon, you could be shot!
The verbal commands from officers were being directed at the suspect in the passenger seat of the silver SUV, who police have identified as 30-year-old Brian Velasco Ruelas of Portland.
Passenger, put your hands up! Hands up, passenger!
Velasco Ruelas eventually exits the vehicle. We have decided to blur him in this video.
Hands up, passenger! They're semi-cooperative. Nope, just keep your hands up! Stop reaching around!
Seconds later, you can hear an exchange of gunfire. Velasco Ruelas was hit in the exchange. Portland police officers provided him medical aid after the shooting. According to PPB, a police cruiser and a nearby vehicle were hit with gunfire, and a firearm was also recovered. Velasco Ruelas was transported to the hospital after the incident. 2 weeks later, he remains in police custody in the hospital. And according to PPB, formal charges will be filed when he is released. Per standard procedure, the two PPB officers who use their firearms remain on administrative leave as the investigation continues. No officers were hurt in that incident. Well, turning now to our weather here locally and taking a live look out over the Rose City where it's 61 degrees. We saw mostly cloudy skies to start the first weekend of October and a few light showers earlier today, but tomorrow and the early part of next week are shaping up to be much warmer. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri has a look at your first forecast.
John, it was definitely a cool and cloudy start. Those showers that start to move through late last night, early this morning were pretty light. We didn't really see much in terms of measurable amount of rain. Tomorrow, there will be some areas of low clouds, some spotty areas of fog, but a good portion of the day is going to be pretty much clear skies from beginning to end with daytime highs right around the low 70s. Now, that weak system that we saw earlier this morning is going to be pushing off to the east. Now we're going to start to see a ridge of high pressure develop over the next couple of days, and that means a lot of sunshine for us as we head into the first full week of October. I'll talk more about when we can be seeing some measurable amount of rain coming up in just a few minutes.
Hey, Joe, thank you. We'll see you soon. Well, thousands of people are expected to run in tomorrow's Portland Marathon. Ahead of the race, today runners went to the Oregon Convention Center to pick up their bibs and shirts. Organizers say they've seen an increase in participation this year. In 2024, they had roughly 9,000 runners. This year, they have nearly 12,000. Daryl Fippen, who helped to organize the marathon, says that increase is likely due to their sponsorship with Nike. As far as changes to the race route, runners may notice a few differences.
We moved the start line just a little bit, just west on Salmon Street, and then there's one little turn on the route that was changed, but pretty much everything else has stayed exactly the same from last year. Tomorrow looks like a beautiful day, so we hope all the neighborhoods and communities within the Portland area whether they're on the course or off the course, come out to support all these great runners.
Organizers also tell KGW they're in frequent communication with Portland police regarding safety for runners. This as a portion of the race route passes by the ICE building on South Waterfront. The race starts at 7:15 tomorrow morning. The marathon course crosses the Broadway, Burnside, and Selwood bridges. TriMet says 20 bus routes will have detours, and the race crosses the Max line at 4 different locations. That means some riders could see slight delays from 5 this morning until the race wraps up.